You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith Johnson.
The AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California. Presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AFTERBUZZ TV's Dallas After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's Dallas After Show.
Yes, I have missed this music. Hello, everyone. Being is for doing, and we are back doing another fabulous after show for Dallas. It is season 2, episode 1 and 2, 2-hour premiere. We've got Battle Lines and Venomous Creatures, which these were some amazing episodes on Monday night. I am your host, Kelly. Unfortunately, it's just the ladies tonight. The boys couldn't make it, but we'll be back to full force next week. And joining me is
Dorinda. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I feel like it's been forever since we've been in here talking about the show.
I know. I missed it so much. I'm so excited to be here. And I missed you. I mean, we haven't seen each other since the show.
It's been so crazy, but I thought it was such a fantastic premiere.
It was.
I mean, both episodes back to back was just great. And I mean, I think we should, start out by, it was a really sad time for Dallas, this last, month, because unfortunately we lost Larry Hagman, one of them,
It was sad. I teared up.
It was very
I'm actually
sad.
kind of tearing now.
It was it's JR, and he just, he had been doing so well, and when we had Brenda Strong in here, she talked about how, he was coming back and he was feeling better, and it's just... It was very sad to hear, and I happened to be in Dallas over the holidays.
Oh, wow.
And they had like a whole memorial for him, and they had like viewings where you could go to South Fork and do all of these things, and it was, very respectful to him and his memory and like the legend of Dallas, which I thought was really great.
That is so nice, but it is sad. I really do have chills, and it was interesting to watch because we both grew up with original Dallas.
Yeah, I used to watch it with my mom.
Exactly, and I used to sneak watch it. And I just love JR's character, and just to know that it's kind of ominous in its own little way.
Right.
But he still does a fantastic job, and you still love him for his quips and how he really handles himself.
He had some great one-liners in in these 2 episodes. Oh, yeah. I mean, just... And the eyebrows, you gotta love the eyebrows. And I love how there's a Twitter account just for JR's eyebrows. Just a little FYI out there for you guys if you want to follow.
But yeah, he had some really good one-liners, and I'll miss him to death.
Yeah, absolutely. So, where we left off last season, John Ross didn't murder Marta. We found that out.
Yes.
But, Sue Ellen had bribed the medical examiner to get John Ross out of trouble. So that's kind of hanging over her head. Harris was trying to bribe her, and then to launder money for him if she became governor, because she was running for governor. Mm-hmm. And then Anne came in and saved the day and just really showed her strength and recorded him talking about money laundering. And then he sent a package to her, the very emotional package, which we all speculated, we didn't know what it was.
Exactly.
Obviously it was a picture of, or he gave it to Bobby, and it was a picture of her with a baby.
Yes.
But we didn't know what that meant, what happened. And, we find out about that in this episode.
Everything really tied into this episode. But I'm going to bring it back to the picture, and I loved how, and that was one of the things I thought about walking into this room. I was hoping we would talk about that and how we all had our different views on what we would do.
Yes.
Yes, and I just thought it was interesting, and I was happy the way Bobby handled it.
I was too. I mean, you know, because when he was given the envelope with the information about her past, he didn't look into it. And no, I'm sorry, let me make a correction. Harris didn't give it to him. It was given to him by the investigator, right?
I think so, if I'm correct. Yes, I think so.
I think so too. Either way, he had this packet of information that, you know, was about Anne's past, and he chose not to read it, to give her time, and when she was ready to talk about it, he would be there to listen. And he really was, which I thought was so great.
Bobby is awesome.
I know.
I mean, Bobby's in this world. I need a Bobby.
Let's start with Anne's storyline, because it was, I mean, it was pretty powerful for this premiere. You know, the family has come back together when we left off and started Ewing Energies back up again in the old space from the beginning. They're back in the towers in downtown Dallas, you know, overlooking the city. And, you know, Anne is at the art gallery buying Bobby like this awesome piece of art for his office. And in walks Harris, of course, just being creepy as can be.
He's so good at being creepy.
I know. I know, with this smirk on his face at all times. You just want to slap him.
Yeah, and you knew that he had something up his sleeve. You just totally knew it. And what he did was tell him that he knew where their daughter was. And shows her a picture, and then shows her the DNA test, and then also says, well, if you don't believe me, you should go and do the same. And all of this stuff to make her... But you owe me. Like, I want that tape that you and Sue Ellen have.
Yeah, so she, you know, this is her daughter. And still, at this point, we still don't know what happened to this daughter. What is the situation with this? And, you know, she gets very emotional. That's when she goes and runs to Bobby and tells him, you know, what's going on and what's happening. And I like that she was very honest.
Yes.
And she didn't hide it from him. She didn't lie. You know, she told him he wants this tape that I made of him saying that he was, you know, wanted Sue Ellen to launder money.
Yeah, and I understand, because her and Sue Ellen, then when they find out that the DNA is all, it's on the up and up, her and Sue Ellen then give the tape back, and then she tells Bobby, though, about that. After the fact.
Well, after she gave it back, but he knew that that's what she had to do.
Yeah.
You know, because she, you know, when the test results came back, he wasn't there, so she just bolted and went and did
exactly.
it. Which is probably something that, you know, I would do.
I think most people will do, but I understood what Bobby said, too. He goes, I would have done something about this. Bobby being the man, as Bobby always is, I would have done something because there's something, because he even said, I think there's something to this. I would have, and you just gave up your leverage, basically. That's what he was saying to her.
Right, and she just went all emotion on it, you know.
Yeah.
And we find out what happened to her daughter, that her daughter was stolen from her at the fair.
Yes.
That she, you know, was in her stroller. She looked away to grab a soda, which every mom does.
Yeah.
And I mean, can you even imagine? She looks back and her daughter is gone.
I don't know what I would do as a parent in all these years, blaming yourself for everything. And, you know, and that leads into second episode. Well, before even that, she finally meets the daughter, and the daughter's like, I want nothing to do with you.
I mean, and she is just distraught. She's broken. She can't even walk away. And it's just, you know, the daughter tells her, yeah, I knew you were going to come, and I wish you hadn't. I wish I'd never see you again. And obviously this this girl, her name is Emma, has been told, you know, something that at this point we don't know yet, something ugly about her mother, making her feel, you know, she doesn't really know if it was, which I thought was kind of shady in the first place, because if she was really stolen, then it was, you know, the first thing she walks up to her and says is, I'm your mother. Like, doesn't even have a conversation about, do you understand what happened? You know?
Yeah.
You know, so I thought that was a little...
I thought there were certain things that could have done better. And then as soon as she said what she said is like, I don't, you know, I wish you never came. I was like, Ryland is behind this. He's won again. He won. He won.
Absolutely.
He got what he wanted. She got what she wanted, but he knew what the reaction was going to be. I knew, And then once again brought me back to what Bobby said. You should let me take care of this because there's something to this.
Well, and it's a thing with no patience when it comes to, you know, you and your children. It was the same thing with Sue Ellen.
Yes.
With what she did for John Ross. You know,
Exactly.
even though it all worked out in his favor in the end anyway, she still got herself in trouble because she didn't want to take any chances. And I think that's where Anne's head was. She didn't want to take the chance that, you know, this was real and, you know, her daughter's, you know, taken away from her again, which happened anyway.
Yes.
And, you know, and in her face, which is even more devastating.
Yeah, it was sad. It was interesting to watch both women, though, because when Rylan was at the house, it was at Sue Ellen's house, and Anne shows up, and you can see the understanding the two women had with each other, which I found very... Like, Sue Ellen was like, I'm throwing this away. Who knows what's going to come of this? But I would do the same thing if it was my child.
And they had a similar conversation when when the bribery all came about, when they had talked about it. And we had talked about how we really enjoyed their friendship.
Yes.
And kind of the bond that the two of them have, that they, first and foremost, they're going to protect their family. And, you know, family comes first no matter what side they're on. If it's up to the family, they're going to, you know, stand together, which is what they've done, you know, in both situations. Because Anne even told her, you got to do what you got to do for your son.
Yes.
And it just came back full circle with this, with her daughter. And, you know, she kind of, you know, Sue Ellen kind of took one for the team because who knows what he can, you know, do to her had she won the, you know, the election and all of that.
Exactly, which then turns into Sue Ellen gets caught in her own sauce, I guess you could say, in her own stew when the medical examiner quits or resigns, and he then outs her.
Yeah, and she was up 12 points in the polls because when the episode opens, that's kind of what we see.
Yes.
Is, you know, she's on TV, John Ross is watching her, she's 12 points up, excited about, you know, it's pretty much she had it in the bag. And then the medical examiner comes in and, you know, confesses, and all of a sudden, you know, now they want to indict her on, you know, obstruction of justice and all these different things.
I know, which is like awful.
Yeah.
It's awful, awful, awful. But I do like, we'll get into that again, but I'm going to like segue to John Ross real quick because I just want to talk about that opening scene, which I thought was fantastic because you turn around and he's watching a party as he turns around from watching the TV and there's all the people and like a party going on, and he turns around and there's a party. I like the way they shot that. Yeah, the way it was shot. And then he hooks up with this girl, and you think he's hooking up with this girl just to hook up because he's sad over his cousin and Elena. And really, he's doing it to blackmail
her dad.
Yes.
I mean,
which
and
is brilliant.
Completely. And you have to remember from when, you know, last season ended, he's, you know, at the office with JR. I want to learn all of your dirty tricks. You have to teach me, you know, let's do this. We're going to take this over. I'm in.
Yes.
And this was his first lesson. You know, he wanted to buy somebody like trucks from the fleet from this girl's dad, and he wasn't budging, so he needed some leverage to get his way. And if we know anything about you know, JR, he always gets his way.
Always gets his way.
You know, no matter what he has to do, he gets his way, and he's teaching this to John Ross, who goes into this bachelor party. And I mean, and it's just so, you know, like charismatic in the way that he does it. And he's so freaking hot. Like, you know, like she's really going to say no to that. I mean, of course.
Exactly. And when he writes on her apron, which is really her chest. French kiss. What was it? French kiss.
Till my toes curl.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I like in the morning, he marks it off.
Yes.
Because she's still wearing the apron. Exactly. Of course she is.
Of course. Yeah, she's still wearing that apron, which I was like, how did they do all that with that apron on? Okay, because that's what I'm thinking of. I'm not thinking blackmail. I'm not thinking anything else. I just see that.
You're thinking, how did they get down to business with the apron on?
Exactly, because that just was like a little...
But again, you know, he's getting dressed. He's walking downstairs. She tells him, you know, go out the back because my dad's probably up. And he's like, yeah, of course. And then he goes downstairs, sees her dad, walks over to him, is buttoning his shirt, and is like, hey, how are you doing?
Like, the dad's not thinking any of this is weird. Like, he was unbuttoned when he starts talking to the dad. The dad is like, get out of my house. And then, yeah.
Okay, I have to bring this up, and you might have to like censor me if we're not allowed to say this, but there's a quote that he says that I seriously cannot believe that TNT actually aired. I mean, I know it's cable, but it's not like HBO. And he's, you know, the dad of this girl is, you know, arguing with him. He shows him video of them having sex, and he says, you know, her fiance and her are in love, don't do this. And he looks him dead in the face and says, and I quote, "Love is for pussies." I could not believe that.
I rewind it because I thought it was in my head. You know, sometimes, you know, mind like tricks you. Yeah. And you're thinking, well, that's what it really should be, but that's not what he said. Oh, yeah, that's what he said.
They went there. He said it, and I could not believe it. I mean, they're really pushing the buttons.
They are. I wonder how many takes it took him to say that,
with
too.
A straight face.
Yeah, with a straight, like, vehement face, too.
No, and he was, you know, he had this stone cold, and I think in that moment, too, at least for me, I could see kind of the toll that the whole situation with Elena took on him, because regardless of how low down and scheming he is, I believe that he truly was in love with her, and he just couldn't get out from under himself. Yeah. You know, he couldn't get out of his own way for that situation. He doesn't know how to tell the truth. I think that's the most challenging thing for him, because he's so confident on the outside, but on the inside, he's so insecure, and that's why he constantly has to lie. He doesn't trust anyone, and I think that's the fault of his parents.
Oh, for sure. And JR being his dad, you know, the number one culprit of that. And him having, and I'm going to bring it up, and I don't know if many people will be on my side for this, but I do feel bad for him, because Christopher and Elena are flaunting their love for each other in front of him. And how would you feel if, you know, he's a family member, she works at Ewing Oil, everything, you know, all of this, and they're in business meetings and they're like holding hands or caressing each other. I'm like, you're in a business meeting. Get the PDA down. Like, to me, that's annoying as a person who wasn't in love with any of you. I would be annoyed, because it's not very professional.
Well, it's not. And not only that, she's, you know, bed hopping between these two boys for, you know, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, which in itself is a whole other situation.
Yeah, well, that says a lot.
Right. But I mean, and in her defense, you know, her breaking up with Christopher was not her fault or anybody's fault. Yeah. Not even John Ross's fault, we found out. Yes. But still, you know, instead of them having a conversation and figuring out what happened, they both just kind of went away. And she turns to John Ross. I mean, out of everybody, that's where she goes. I mean, she couldn't leave South Fork and find another man to stay on the property.
I mean, Dallas is a pretty decent sized place.
I've been there.
Exactly.
There's some hotties in Dallas.
Oh, yes, there are. Yes, there are. Yeah. And she could have found somebody.
I mean, she can go hang out in the stockyards and find.
Exactly. And if you want it rich, there's a lot of rich there, too.
Yes, there is. So, but that, you know, that was the thing. And I agree with you to a certain extent on that, because I thought it was, you know, kind of crappy of them to do that. But on the other hand, you know, he just really, really lied about some serious things. Yeah. I mean, he's trying to take down the family and this business that she's trying to help him create. So she's on his side, fighting for him, trying to make people, you know, believe in him and trust in him. And he's completely lying to her. I mean, out of everyone, you know, and I think a lot of it is her being spiteful. Yes. I kind of think. And, you know, who knows? And maybe I'd do the same thing, because, you know, when you're fighting on someone's behalf and they just make you look like a fool, you know, that she did on top of everything else, you know, it's got to be pretty crappy.
And I'm sure he'll never understand that either, because his ego, he does have a huge ego, which runs him. You know, his ego is as big as JR's, I would like to think. Yeah. And he'll never understand it until, like, later on.
No, I think you're right. Well, and one of the things, which is an ode to Josh Henderson, I just, and I had said this before last season, I was very skeptical about this new cast and wondering if they were going to be able to pull it off, because Dallas is such an iconic show and it was so amazing, and the way that it's made. And I think that they've done an excellent job with the new show, but also him. I mean, for us to just have a discussion about the different levels of his character is just how well he plays it. Yes. You know, you really can, the looks on his face, his expressions, the things that he does, his body language, you can totally see the different layers to him.
Yeah, and I think this season, to be honest with you, even just 2 episodes in, his portrayal, him being John Ross, is so much better. Yeah, he was great last season. I don't want to say anything, but he's coming into himself. I think that's what I'm trying to say. I don't want to say so much better because that's not true, but it's so much more that character. And it's amazing to watch him, and I like watching him. I liked watching him before, but now I'm growing to like love watching him and what he's doing. And I really love the John Ross character, and I really do hope that he picks up some of the quips that JR used to do, and they bring some of that in, since fortunately that's not going to be there much longer.
I know, and that's, you know, that's kind of a really sad thing to think about. But sorry, I have to go through. I mean, so much happened in these like 2 episodes.
Yes, a lot of things happened.
It's insane.
So why don't we talk about Pamela?
Yes, Pamela. Hold on, I wanted to see if there was anything. Yeah, okay, let's go into Pamela. So Pamela Rebecca Barnes decides to come back. You know, she's been on hiatus for a little while, and you know, comes back on her private plane, and she is just a completely different person.
Yes.
And she meets Frank, who, you know, we know is the driver.
Yes.
But is, you know, doing some legitimate business, I guess, with the Barnes company. And, you know, she's very disrespectful to him, very dismissive of him and his kind of status there. And I think that's going to come back and bite her, as we kind of see through the episode. But, you know, she comes back and she wants to make an entrance.
Yes.
And I mean, she says as much, and she invites Christopher over to meet with her, and it's at, you know, the Barnes Corporation, and she's in the conference room, and she tells them her name. And how that in itself could not have been, you know, like grants to get him an annulment, I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't understand. I don't understand.
I mean, I don't care if she legally changed her name to Rebecca Sutter.
But he didn't know that.
He didn't. I mean, and the fact of like the feud between families,
exactly,
and she hid her true identity. How was that not plausible? I mean, is his lawyer really that bad? Because, you know, we saw some things in last season when the lawyer was kind of shady. Yes. And he's, you know, kind of playing both sides, and he's still around. So I wonder if he just didn't do his job very well, or I mean, what is the deal with that?
Yeah, I just don't understand how they would even, because it is fraud. It is fraud because they're like, well, you took her back. Well, he still took her back as Rebecca Sutter. He did not take her back as a Pamela Barnes. He didn't know it until that moment.
I mean, it's something has to be said that, you know, Pamela was her aunt, which was Christopher's stepmom, or adopted mom. Adopted mom. I'm sorry. Adopted
Let's bring
mom.
that up too. That's his adopted mom.
This is adopted mom. So it kind of makes them cousins in a way, which is totally creepy. And why did nobody bring that up on the show? I mean, because adopted or not, I mean, that was his mom.
Yes.
You know, Pamela is his niece. Or is her niece. It's just like, ew.
Yeah. And
I mean, I guess they're not blood related, but still.
But still, I know they're not blood related, but there's still that family tie there.
Yes.
And her going into doing that. And then they find the real Rebecca Sutter.
Yes. But also from last season, real quick before we get into that, don't you remember when Christopher took her to Cliff Barnes' house?
Yes, and
why did nobody bring that up?
I said that last season. I said there's something up. Watch, she's probably going to be his daughter or something.
No, but I mean in court.
Oh, that's
in
right.
Court.
Nobody said that.
That's fraud right there, because she was standing in front of her father. She lied. They acted like they didn't know each other. How was that not fraud? How did everybody forget about that? Dang it. I was so frustrated. I need to be a lawyer.
Stuck to the thing.
No, it was just totally insane. And she's, you know, she's back in business. She's back at the board meeting. She wants to take over this company, and she's kind of pushing Frank out of the way.
Oh, the way she treated Frank was
terrible.
Like worse than someone's stepchild.
Yeah, it was terrible in front of everyone too. No class,
demeaning.
No kind of tact.
She doesn't. But that's just leading up to something, which is going to be so good, because I think, well, we've already talked about this. Frank has been wanting that part of Barnes, enterprises, basically,
Yeah, I think he feels entitled. He's, he's been a laborer. He's worked. He's done everything that's asked of him. He cleans up messes. He took care of Tommy.
Yes.
Cleaned up that whole mess. And that's kind of what he does.
Yes.
He does everything that he's supposed to do. And now, this little brat comes back in because her plan foiled and she kind of wants to take over his place, which is not very fair. And so I think there's seriously going to be some retaliation there, which we saw a little bit of it in the episode.
Oh, big time.
Yeah, but before that, when she's meeting with Christopher and Bobby in the conference room, she wants to make a deal and get 30% of Ewing Energies or go to court, and she threatens to put the whole full force of her father's, status. And I like how she said, I don't want money because my dad can buy and sell you 3 times over. She wants, and I don't think she wants the stock and energy either. Her dad does, but she wants revenge on Christopher, because I think she really did like him. I think she did kind of get lost in that whole thing.
Yes, I think she, she perpetrated the whole thing between Christopher and Elena and the breakup and everything like that, but she fell in love with her pawn.
Right.
And that's what happens. And that's, that part is, it's not sad. I was like, that's sad. I feel bad for her. No, I don't feel bad for her. She is a spoiled little girl who wanted something. She could have had it, but she decided to turn the tables and then lie. And then the lie always comes out.
Yeah.
The lie always comes out.
Well, because the truth really does, you can't hide it forever. You can bury it and bury it and bury it, but some way, shape, or form, you're going to forget what you lied about. Somebody's going to mess it up, and the truth is going to come out.
Yes.
And that is what happened here. And, but Christopher is pretty confident, and he's like, you ready to fight? Let's do it, because he found the real Rebecca Sutter. Yep. And has her ready to testify. She's on his side. She's getting this, first-class treatment. She really thinks, she has no idea what happened to Tommy. Nobody does, really. Yeah. And she's, really wants help finding him. And we really think that this is a positive thing for him in the beginning. Yes. That he's finally got the upper hand, but of course he doesn't.
He doesn't, because John Ross, because they go and they tell John Ross all of this.
Well, no, he has... he had the PI following them, remember?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
That's how he found out about the new Rebecca, or about the real Rebecca. Yes. He had the PI follow him, and then he kind of swooped in and turned her and used that to team up with Pamela to get revenge back, because he wants to take back the company because of his heartbreak, really.
Yeah, because if not, because at the end of the season, he was so excited and ready to work with his cousin and to really have it be a family business.
Right.
And then, the whole Elena thing went down, and that dream was over. But I want to say, we talked about JR's quips or whatever. I loved what he said to her. What he said to Pamela.
Oh, yes.
You're not the first Pam to fox your way into the hen house. And he was just so, he's so funny, and he just has all these things. Oh. But yeah, I thought it was great.
Well, and he tells her, too, I'm 1 for 1 on fleshing out Pamela's, and I plan to be 2 for 2.
Yes.
And I think she gets a little nervous for a second. You see her facial expression kind of change and not so confident.
Exactly.
And I love that about him. And even before that, when they're sitting around talking about, going over there, I love how he said, about Cliff, he said, what did he say? We just to hire some roughnecks to take him on a long ride.
I think at the end of the day, too, JR even said it, but I'm not going to say in the right words that he said it, talking about, her being a Barnes and stuff. He's still vehemently a Ewing, and family is number 1 to him. So no matter what happens, he will make sure that.
Well, and that's what he said. He said, I'm part of this, I'm part of this family.
Yes.
I might not be part of the company, but I'm part of this family. And that's when he said, I'm 1 for 1 on fleshing out Pamela's.
Yes, that was, that was so brilliant.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. And as he's scheming with John Ross, and John Ross is still very cocky. He still thinks that he, a couple of lessons and he can take over, he can be smarter than JR. And he kind of says so. And JR tells him, you need to slow down a little bit. And I think that's what's going to get him in trouble.
Yes.
Is that he goes too far ahead. He doesn't know how, he doesn't have any patience. He doesn't take his time. And I think that's going to be, that's going to really get in his way.
That's where he's not very smart about what he's doing, where his father is brilliant of what he, does.
Yeah. Oh, and I love another quote that he said, he's talking to John Ross and, he asks him, if it really comes down to it, are you really ready to, hurt some of the people that you love? Are you really, really ready to get back at Elena?
Yeah.
And he says, yeah, I am. And he says, and JR says, love, hate, jealousy, mix them up and they make a mean martini. That's what I and I love it. And he's like, you've got the devil inside you. Whatever you need to light a fire under you, whatever. Let's just go with it.
And he said a lot of great things. He even said, what did he say to John Ross also? He goes, she really did a number on you, didn't she? She cut your heart out with a spoon and licked it clean.
Yes.
I was like, wow.
And he told Frank, how does it feel to be a poodle?
There you go.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
When he leaves the office?
Yes.
Like, I'm so going to miss those. Like, it's just so fantastic. I don't know. But real quick, I want to remind you guys to please go to iTunes. The show is back. We are ready for, to hear your thoughts and, get back into the discussions with you. So rate and comment. It's free. Tell your friends. And, definitely let us know how you feel about the whole situation and, what you think is going to come out of this season, because we're, really excited about it.
I know. There's just so, you know what, let's talk about Rebecca Sutter, because we didn't finish on that whole thing.
I think it's Sutter.
Sutter?
Sutter.
Oh, I always want to say Stutter, so excuse me. I am so sorry.
I think it's Sutter.
Our fans, I'm sorry that I said stutter. Sutter. But it shows the kind of person she is, that you understand Tommy a little bit better, I thought, because she said, yes, I want to help you also, but saying, I need a piece of something.
Right.
I need, and then she gets up on the stand and she bold-faced lies.
Yeah, well, for money.
Yes, it was all about money.
All about money, which it usually is. I mean, that was Tommy's deal. That was why, Pamela started this whole thing for her dad, was because he's been trying to take down the Ewings forever.
Yes.
And it's all about power and money. And, it's really sad to see. Is she really concerned? I mean, and she says she's concerned about her brother, but is she really, if she's, that kind of a person?
Yeah, and she's not.
No.
She's really not. She thinks because these people have money that she's going to get a piece of something, so she's going to be okay.
Yeah, and she, and Christopher freaks out. He's, ready to fight with Pamela. He said, okay, you wanted a war. You got one. Yeah. And, he's ready to, pull out all the stops and do whatever he can to, get his children. And I'm starting to wonder if she's still pregnant.
Okay, thank you.
Because, I mean, she's been gone for a while, and she's got no morning sickness. She's,
no baby bump.
Not everybody does, but she's supposed to have twins.
Yes.
And she has no baby bump. She's still in those itty bitty pencil skirts. She's teeny tiny in, 4-inch heels.
Yeah, and and I don't believe that, but maybe, just no, it would be too long. That would be too long of a time, because I was like, oh, because her and John Ross started something up.
Right. Okay. And before we talk about that, and sorry, I know the storylines kind of all kind of intertwine with each other, so it's kind of hard to break it up with this show, but
because there being 2 episodes all at once, we're going to go in and out.
It's so much going on, but also with Frank and Pamela's relationship, like I said, he's really upset about this whole thing of her just trying to push him out of the way and take over. So after everything happens in court and Rebecca gets her way, or Pamela gets her way, he sends a package to Christopher, which turns out to be Tommy's cell phone that has 2 really interesting voicemails on it.
Oh, yes. That was fantastic.
So Christopher takes the phone, goes to the, Rebecca Sutter's hotel room. She doesn't want to let him in. He's like, I know you're there. Let me in. It's about your brother. She opens the door, and he plays her the first voicemail that is Pamela, basically threatening him. And he tells her, this is the kind of person that you flipped on me for. And, she's not really saying much, and then she's still trying to play the victim. And then he says, there's another voicemail. And it's a voicemail of her. It's a voicemail of Rebecca Sutter. She was totally in on it the whole time.
What an evil person.
I know.
What an evil, evil, evil person.
I mean, and there was a lot of evil in this episode because, in the second episode, we found out she was involved in all of this. And also, going back to Anne, Bobby does some digging. He's not ready. Anne is completely distraught. She has to have the doctor come over. She won't get out of bed. She doesn't make it to the hearing, where all of this goes down with Christopher and Pamela. And, she's getting shot up with something to help her sleep or relax or take the edge off, whatever. And he's really worried about her. So he starts doing research and looking into things. And he goes to the stables and starts asking around, asking questions and doing some investigative work because he reaches out to the police and they're just not doing much. So come to find out after he, he's a smart man. And after he puts, all of these different clues that he finds out, the horse that she was riding, he found out it was from London. And she had been, riding it for 8 years in London. So he goes to Harris's house, and that's when we're introduced to the awesome Judith Light, who plays Harris's mother. Oh, I love that her name is Judith.
Yes.
and we find out that they're the ones that stole Emma from Anne.
That's just evil. And why aren't they going to they need to do something about this.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm sure they won't go through the legal system because that's not going to work, but something has to happen because they're the ones who took her. I was so angry. I actually threw I threw something at the I was like, I can't believe this, and I threw it.
I mean, how horrible is that? He has, they went through this horrible divorce. She was, and, when Bobby confronts Harris in the first place, he alludes to the fact that she's a junkie.
Yes.
And he mentions the shots and is she getting shots and, all of this. And luckily she decides after she has a kind of a heart-to-heart with Sue Ellen, she decides not to. At the suggestion of JR, by the way.
Yes.
Which I was very surprised about.
Yeah, we'll talk about that too. Yeah. There's so much happening in these
I know. She decided not to go for the drugs, but I mean, how is she going to react to this now when she finds out, which he hasn't told her yet, but when she finds out that all these years, I mean, he's had the baby the entire time that she grew up in London, and he told this daughter a horrible story, and she hates her mother. She thinks that he was protecting her. So, who knows what he's told her, but we know he's an evil, evil person.
And it's 22 years of telling her something.
Yes.
And he is the only parent along with Judith.
She was raised by her grandmother in London.
Yeah, exactly. So think about that. So all she knows are the things that they have told her. So she doesn't know anything, which is going to be quite interesting to see how this rolls out this season.
Yeah, especially because, I think that it's real, like Anne is really gonna step it up, and she is not going to take this lying down. I don't think she's going to kind of crawl and break down about it. I don't, and I think Sue Ellen's gonna help. And when they, when she did go in to see her, and they talked about, kind of the both struggles that they're going through, because we saw that Sue Ellen almost drank.
Yes, that almost broke my heart. I was so happy they came at the right time.
I know,
and I just. And loved the whole Sue Ellen JR, and he really does love her because she is still family to him. And that's the one thing, no matter how devious he is and how awful he is, at the end of the day, he really does love his family.
Yeah, he does. And he has a funny way of showing it.
He has a very funny way of showing it, and it really. I don't know if John Ross really gets what happened, what his mother did for him. That part I'm not quite, I don't know if I'm really sold, but I know JR understands what she did and what she lost because of helping her son.
And he just went to fix it. Well, at least to kind of get the charges dropped, and he finds a way. And, being, the mischievous person he is, he finds a way to blackmail the straight as an arrow district attorney or attorney general or something, whoever it was, and finds this caddy that happens to have some pictures. I mean, of course he finds it.
I thought that was fantastic.
And he saves the day. And she even, she appreciates it. She thanks him. They have this moment, and she invites him in for tea. And it's just, it's very nice to watch that.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, when the going gets tough, he was there to help her because she was there to help his kid.
Exactly. And he was really choked up. You see it when he's watching it all go down, and you can see in his face that he's upset.
Yeah.
Because really, Sue Ellen has picked herself up. She has become this woman, this strong woman who, get to so much that she was going to be the governor. Because when they were together, she was never going to be anything but getting herself into a bottle or two.
Yeah, it was the state attorney that he was blackmailing. I'm sorry. Yeah, it was the state attorney that was going to press charges against Sue Ellen, so he took care of that. And I like that JR complimented her and told her all of those things, that, you came out from under me, so you can come out from this.
Yes, I think that, is that when he said, he goes, this is the one and only time I'll ever say this?
Yes. Yes. The best thing you ever did was leave me.
Yes, exactly.
And I'll deny it as soon as I walk out of this room.
Which I thought was really sweet. It was really sweet, and you could just tell he still adores.
Well, I think that was one of the first times we've, really seen them as a family unit, the three of them, like sitting there comforting her. Even John Ross in his own way, which I agree with you. I don't think he completely gets it yet. Yeah. But I think he will.
I really do. I don't want him to be that spoiled child and you didn't do this for me when I was a kid because you weren't around. I think he really needs to step up as a man and understand, like, even though they weren't really there, they're doing everything they can now.
Right. And hopefully we'll see that, as the season progresses. What were some of the other, getting back to Christopher and Elena, they're making business deals, and Christopher wants to get like the racing cars stuff. He wants to have, his methane kind of fuel this racing team and kind of take over that genre to kind of boost the methane sales and all of that. But he needs a rig to get methane, which is going to cost a lot of money. JR wants to kind of, vertically integrate these things. He wants to get more trucks and do more drilling and all of this. And so they're having a debate about it. And I think he makes a good point. I mean, Christopher and Bobby have 60% of the company. He has 30. 20, I think, or 30, and Elena has 10.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the right math.
Yeah.
So, and he feels like it's always kind of us, them against him. And he does make sense. He does have a good idea because, he wants to make money now, and the methane stuff is going to take a minute, and they need to be profitable. So he makes sense, and Elena agreed with him, but just didn't speak up.
Yes, which she should have. But I do like how Bobby did say, I agree with John Ross.
But at the same time, we're going in a different direction. We're going in a new direction, so we have to explore these other opportunities, which is also, so they were both right in a sense.
Yes.
Which, give it up to Elena that she figured out a way to work it out so everybody gets what they want.
Which I commend her for that.
Yeah, that she went and she found these drill beds like in the Gulf that they can use that were dry, but that they can rebuild, clean up, and they're sitting on methane pockets. So she, made a deal there, so now they have enough money to get the fleet and do this. So everybody gets to win, which is great. So in that sense, they're talking about giving her a bigger stake in the company. John Ross comes in, they explain it to him. And, he's kind of taken aback and surprised, I think. But then he also has kind of an epiphany. Yes, and so at the same time that he's, kind of like, oh, this is awesome, he also, his scheming mind looks at it in a way where it can benefit him. So now he wants to make everyone equal partners, everybody gives up 5% and, so they can all be equal, which they agree on. So now his plan is when he takes them all down, and if Christopher and Elena get married and she's already so much in debt, then everything she owns is going to be vulnerable, including her stock.
Yeah.
Or shares.
I mean, he's smart about it. But, you know, I really thought for just a second, I really just thought for 1 second when he walked in and he goes, oh, I feel like you guys are always leaving me out. And they're like, no, John Ross, this is what we're doing.
And this is what I'm doing for you.
Yes.
You know, you're right. And all. And,
exactly.
And I think he was taken aback for a second, but he didn't let himself go there. All of us, you know, automatically he's scheming. He's ready for the next thing. And that's when he goes and he, you know, explains it to JR and he's like, you're totally my, you know.
Exactly. I mean, he was smart. He was very smart about doing what he did. But let's hope Elena doesn't go down because she's doing all of this for both of them. You know, for herself, for the family, to prove herself, but also he did it for them. Yeah,
for their own gain.
Yeah,
you know, because ultimately they want to take back, you know, Ewing oil. You know, they want to take control of it. So there's always, you know, that underlying end game of what they want. So there's always that kind of backhanded scheming that they're doing behind everybody's back.
Yeah.
So, you know, we've got everybody scheming everybody. You know, on one hand, John Ross is working with JR. On the other hand, he's partnering up with Pamela, which I don't feel that JR knows about.
Oh, I think if JR knew about this, he would have a big problem with it.
Yeah, so there's all these under things, you know, Frank is scheming against Pamela now, trying to help. So there's a lot of different things going on. So it looks like this season is just going to be like jam-packed with stuff. We've got the whole Bobby, Harris, and Emma thing with Anne.
Yes, and then with Judith, like, coming in.
Yeah.
Oh, I think... Because she's scary.
She is scary.
She is not who's the boss at all.
She is the boss.
Exactly.
She is running. And I like how she left everything out for him to see all the pictures stacked up, like the years, to show how long they've had that kid.
Oh, yeah.
You know, just very evil. And she sits there with a smirk on her face when Emma says, he saved me. My dad saved me. And it's just so terrible and so evil.
Yeah.
That, I mean, we'll just see kind of how it goes. But, I don't know, you want to get into some news and gossip?
Sure. Let's do it.
All right, let's see.
AfterBuzz TV News.
Well, obviously, the biggest news for the show was the unfortunate passing of Larry Hagman and, you know, all of that. But that is the way that the show is going to go, because he had already, you know, done so many episodes and was in the process of shooting, is now it's going to be a mystery. They're going to incorporate it into the show, and it's going to be a big mystery for the show. And Perez Hilton was reporting that it's going to be kind of like similar moments to the Who Shot JR storyline.
Yes.
Which I think is going to be fantastic. And what a better way, and which is what he says, you know, what a better way to remember him than like that, with that same like powerful ending that we had from that episode.
Exactly. And I mean, to me, it's still one of the most monumental moments in TV. Who Shot JR.
Absolutely. And they don't want him, because they're not going to have the character die of natural causes, but we don't know exactly yet what's going to happen. But, you know, they were quoted as saying, we felt that having JR die of natural causes would have been completely inappropriate.
Yes.
And, you know, not only to the character, but to Larry Hagman, which I totally agree with.
Yeah, he wouldn't have wanted it that way. I mean, JR is too evil and devious just to die.
He can't die in his sleep.
That's not happening.
Absolutely not. No, he needs to be like kidnapped or blown up or like something. Like, it cannot just be natural. Like, it can't.
No, it cannot.
No, but you know, good news, I guess, for the show is, according to the Hollywood Reporter, the Dallas premiere scored just south, and they put in parentheses just south fork of 7 million viewers. You know, which is good. I think it was a little bit down from last year, but it's still, you know, it's still holding up and still has big numbers.
Yeah, and 7 million is still pretty good.
Yeah, it's, you know, for a non-network show.
Exactly,
so I think that's really great. So hopefully, you know, the numbers will continue to rise, and I'm excited to see what's gonna happen in the in the coming episodes.
And I think the numbers actually will rise up, and I feel like, I think it's episode 7 where they're gonna do a whole big funeral, and it's going to be a big thing for JR. I'm almost positive that episode isn't one of the highest rated episodes
ever. Since you know, it has to like outdo the 1991 episode.
Yes.
Like, it has to.
Yes, because people are wanting, because we're going to see a lot of the old faces, like even more of the old faces that weren't in first season are going to be in this episode, which is going to be interesting. We don't know. I don't know who, but that's what there's
a lot of rumors floating around about who it's going to be. So, but I think they're being very tight-lipped about it, and we'll kind of see who actually shows up. But it's definitely going to be exciting to see.
Yes.
Well, let's do some predictions. With all the scheming.
Now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
So much scheming going on. I don't think Rebecca's pregnant, or Pamela, or whatever her name is. I don't think she is. But one thing that I've totally forgot to mention, because there's just so much going on and we're running out of time, but the hookup between her and John Ross, I mean, was probably one of the hottest scenes I've seen on television. Yes. Because it's the third, the second or third time they're meeting. It's up in her apartment. Mm-hmm. He walks in. She's standing outside. He's quoting The Great Gatsby, and they like make out, and he totally bails. They're having this kind of power struggle about how much he's going to take of her shares and all of this, and they're negotiating. And then she kisses him, and he puts his drink down and says, "Cool, I'll take 70, but I would have taken 50. Thanks for being so generous." And runs in the elevator. She has this look on her face that is like, "Are you freaking kidding me?
Like, what just happened?"
But how gangster is it that he's going down the elevator, she stops it and brings it back up?
That's hot. That's hot. That's that's.
But this smirk on his face, and then when the doors open and he's got that like hot, sexy look, and they just go like, it was awesome. It was hot. But that is another reason why I do not think that chick is pregnant. She's been gone for how long? No, she is not pregnant to be acting like that.
Yeah, watch her get really pregnant with John Ross.
Yes.
That would be awesome.
I know.
Yes.
I'm afraid that Anne might seriously get crazy after this whole situation and try to kill Harris. I wonder if she's gonna get to the point where she just is, because she told him, if this is not true, I will kill you, basically.
Yes, I will kill you dead or something like that.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering if she's going to kind of snap and that's what we're going to see. Or, maybe Bobby will, maybe they'll do what JR suggested and, have some roughnecks take him out for a ride.
But then we have Judith Light's character and her coming into the picture. And my prediction is you're going to find out that she's been running the whole show the whole time. With everything. Yes. She seems like she's definitely the wicked kind of, the evil queen from the Disney, show. Manipulating everybody. Maleficent.
That's what she reminded me of, was Maleficent. Yes. Just crazy, scary, and just so evil. And even her hair.
Yes.
Even her hairdo.
Yes. Everything about her, and they really did make her out. To be
an evil character.
Yeah, they're just going to really do it. I really want to see, and here's one more quick prediction, because I know we got to get out of here. But like I said, the whole relationship between Anne and Sue Ellen, I think this season you'll see more of it because of what Anne is going through. And Sue Ellen's going to have to be the strong one, which will help her not drink. Yes. That's what I'm thinking. Well, I'm hoping. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
That sounds good. So we'll see. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We're so excited for the new season of the show. Yay! And next week, it'll be the four of us. We'll be all back in action talking about all this. And again, please go to iTunes, rate, comment, leave us your suggestions and your thoughts and all that good stuff. You can follow us, as always, at AfterBuzz TV, and you can follow me at Kellie with an IE 079.
And you can follow me, Dorinda, at Lula Cherry Films on Twitter.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.